You're tuned in to the Who Are They podcast with your host, D2 Nice 86, the combat sports home destination, MMA, boxing, and more.
All right. Listen, one man don't stop no show. Neither do the obstacles of technical difficulties. Let me tell you, Tiggy.
Y2K.
Is that what
real.
It is? You think it's coming back to bite us in the rear end?
Y2K plus 24. Oh no, wait, actually Y2K plus Kobe. There you go.
Oh, there you go, Kobe. So you're telling me that we're still dealing with the issues of the zeros and ones. That's what it is.
Pretty much. It's one of those things where it just kind of creeps up whenever it wants to. I mean, no device ever goes forever perfectly, right?
This is true. I mean, but I feel like that is built in to the system, you know.
I think the zeros and ones are in my earlobes now, so I think I've been infected.
All right, Neo. Call you Neo from the Matrix.
I wish I had flexibility. That's not flexibility. I wish I had that.
Yeah. You know, I feel like we spend our time bending over backwards at work. So you probably have Neo-like flexibility when it comes to dealing with lab work and bosses.
Neo only works for food. I once ate 21 tacos. You realize I ate 21 tacos at one point?
Yeah, I definitely remember the story. Yeah, it's still wild. Still wild.
I
still think that you should be going.
Number. Yeah, that's not healthy.
Listen, still want to see you in a eating competition at some point in my life. You know, I think you have what it takes.
21 in a week, but not 21 in a day anymore.
I don't know, man. I've seen you grab like Panda Express and Yesenia's and go to town. So I don't know if you're giving yourself enough credit.
Surf and turf burritos at Yesenia's. I can't turn that down.
Let me tell you,
a weekly challenge.
A weekly challenge. See, you're already preparing yourself, broski. You're already preparing yourself. So, tacos and Y2K is the thing of life. So we have come again to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that is the fight card for UFC 307. And we are going to start with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Joaquin Buckley. Take it away, Tiggy Max.
That was a very interesting fight, actually. And it was kind of back and forth, but you did see the display of power from Buckley. And you also got to see some of the karate skills from Stephen Thompson. But that third round was going to be the big deciding factor. And man, Buckley with that finish and blow, which caused Stephen Thompson to collapse onto the mat, and soon after it was the finish. That was I'm impressed because Buckley got a big name victory in this one. So what do you think of that one?
I think it went like I thought it would. The
did.
thing is, and I think that
5 seconds before you said it, or 5 seconds after you said it.
It was literally like, okay, like when's this going to happen? And as soon as I said that, Buckley gets the knockout. And I just, it's those factors, right? Exactly. Well, 7, 7, 7, 25, 7, and 3. But here's the thing, right? So we're looking at the attributes, and you're looking at the time under the lights and the time in the octagon mixed with those attributes, and Buckley is just a thick dude, right? He's thick, but he's powerful, he's fast, he does have endurance, and he's got a chin. And the question I kept asking myself was, if Stephen Wonderboy Thompson cannot keep him at bay, how do you stop him from knocking you out? What do you think was the deciding factor leading up to that moment?
Mm, I guess with the first two rounds, I think that Buckley was trying to establish some kind of pattern and also kind of notice certain things about Stephen Thompson. So where if he were to do a very clubbing blow that would stop the fight, I think he was kind of establishing the timing and stuff throughout the fight, and he finally found that opening again, and he really like laid it in there. And what's funny is I actually went back and saw the scorecards for this particular fight, and all three judges has it three different ways. One has it a tie, one has it for Buckley, and one had for Thompson. So like that third round was definitely going to be the deciding factor, and well, Buckley did not leave it in the hands of the judges.
Do not. Do
Statement
not leave it in the
victory.
hands of the judges. Something I will
Yep.
say though is I thought that uh, I was seeing the karate kicks that Steven was trying to
Yeah.
land, and I just
Yeah.
felt like they weren't doing the kind of damage. They weren't doing they weren't effective enough to keep Joaquin at bay. What did you
Yeah.
think about Steven's striking? Did you feel like he was effective in this fight at all?
I would say some. I would say some mainly because he has kind of, done a lot of those strikes and tried to attempt those strikes in previous fights. And he kind of did it again in this particular fight. But I kind of felt that when he did it in this particular fight, there were some key misses. And, you kind of expend your energy like every single time you throw something. But then if you don't connect, well, you have to reset again and try to figure out a better timing to do it again. But I felt like when I was watching this fight, the timing wasn't not really it wasn't really precise and it wasn't really like efficient. And you just kind of throwing stuff out there sometimes. And all of a sudden, the moment that you don't throw something and something is coming your way, well, Buckley happens to find that opening. And that was, I guess you could say, a spectacular finish because the way that Stephen Thompson went down quickly,
Hmm.
ouch.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Joaquin's just a guy where if he can, and I've seen people do really good game plans with him. You see people who will
Yeah.
immediately go down to the ground and try to make it a grappling match. They know that he possesses power. And, I think that Steven knew that as well, right?
Yeah.
However, I think that he's a gamer, right? Like he is game. He's coming in to fight, and that can sometimes lead to the detriment of your game plan when you're saying, "Hey, like I'm not going to come here and like try to take you down, or I'm not going to try to wrestle. I'm not going to try to stall. I'm coming to fight." And
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing I kept asking myself was if Stephen Thompson, who always comes to fight against Joaquin, and he is misses that step, um, what ends up happening? And that's just kind of the thought that kept playing in my mind up until the moment. And again, those are mistakes that you can't make with Joaquin. Um,
Yeah.
and so other than that, I thought it was a good fight, but I just felt like, to be completely honest, I didn't feel like Steven was effective in the fight in many cases. I didn't feel like, even with the karate, the side stepping karate kicks, I didn't feel like those were powerful enough. And I don't want to say they weren't powerful enough, but I don't feel like they made Joaquin think twice about coming in. And so
Yeah.
that's the real question of how effective is Steven going to be in the future now? What are people going to be thinking as they're watching that fight and they're saying, okay, like here's, are they thinking, here's a guy that I can make a name off of because this is going to be an easy fight. Wonder Boy Thompson is, he has made his name in the UFC having some spectacular fights. Like you said, the fight, although not a win for him, but going up against Pettis, an amazing fight. And he's had some bloody wars. Um, any last thoughts on Joaquin Buckley, Stephen Thompson, and a spectacular finish?
Um, it's a very, very good victory for Buckley because it does bring him into the top 10 of the welterweights.
And so moving on, we have Ketlin Vieira and Kayla Harrison. Listen, Tiki Max, as always, you were always in Kayla Harrison's corner, and she
Yeah.
got the win. Unanimous decision. She did leave it to the judges, but what did you think?
I did notice quite a bit that Kayla Harrison ended up on top quite a few times with Vieira. Um, I did notice there was a little bit of just a little bit timidness, timid from Kayla Harrison, but
Timidity? Mm.
timidity, yeah. And
Yeah. What do you think brought
I,
that out real quick?
I just to kind of gauge what kind of fighter Vieira is, and then once she
Mm.
sees it in real time, and it kind of went with my first thought that Kayla was going to have just a little difficulty with this one because it won't be an easy fight because like Vieira is actually like I would say that she's an established fighter in the division at 135. And this is not going to be like a cakewalk or anything. I felt
Mm-hmm.
that she was going to have a little bit of difficulty, and I felt that initially when I remember saying that it was going to end up being probably a late finish, but it ended up going all 3 rounds. But you did see that Kayla was kind of administering her strengths in this fight, and she did end up quite a bit on top
Mm.
and kind of like kept scoring points and made sure that she kind of used her strengths to make sure that she got the decision victory.
Yeah. I will say this. Kayla, uh, she outstruck her, 2 rounds out of three, and got the takedowns. She dominated this fight, as
Yeah,
I so think that you expected that she would. Uh, she has been, um, to this point, very good. I wouldn't say phenomenal because, again, I do truly believe that Holly Holm was definitely more than holding her own in that first fight. But
yeah,
again, Kayla found a way to win in that fight as well. And so
yeah,
I think this is a testament not only to her capabilities and that of Michael Chandler's, and so
mm,
many others, Michael Venom Page, uh, and the UFC's ability to pull talent from other pools of fighting promotions, right? Again, Michael Venom Page, first fight, gets a win. Michael Chandler, first fight, gets a win. Stumbles a little bit after with the championship fight, but then comes back and gets more wins under his belt. And
yeah,
again, Kayla Harrison coming in, getting two. I think that Ketlin just wasn't quite ready for the power that Kayla possesses. She did well.
yeah.
But just again, I think the thing that a lot of people are going to see is just kind of like, some fighters we won't mention at this point. Kayla is just very powerful for that division. And I think that's where a lot of women will struggle is when they're going up against someone like Kayla Harrison. Um,
Especially with like two particular traits from Kayla, because like you have seen some striking from Kayla, but then also you have seen that she's a threat on the ground too. And so to kind of see two of those aspects in this fight, and it also does leave room for improvement because now that Kayla's faced someone like Caitlin Vieira, it allows her to really kind of go over the tape why she couldn't really go in it faster for her to dominate it, why it took her some time. Even though she kind of started to, she was doing better in almost in all 3 rounds, but
mhm.
why it took her that long to do it, it kind of now gives her a chance to figure out she should be a bit faster at something, or she be not doing this, or she be shooting more of this and stuff. So it kind of allows her to kind of, you know, improve herself, and maybe the next challenge might be even more difficult than Caitlin Vieira. And so who knows if she gets a title fight right after this one. She might not, but it does give her a chance to think that coming into this, she knows that she was a big name, but knowing that also there's ways for her to improve, and this is gives her to open her eyes to see that, there's something about this where she can actually do it. And of course, the UFC has the better fighters out of most women divisions in the world, so
Yeah. Well, she's a champion even before she becomes a UFC champion, and I do agree with you that with her experience outside of the UFC, it does lean towards her being able to adapt in ways that maybe others can't with
yeah.
all of the other skills that she has. So, you may quickly be seeing me jumping on the same bandwagon you've been on for a while.
You want a
So
t-shirt?
with, uh, you know what? If you got one, I'll put it on. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Kayla's number one
So,
fan, not Tony.
you know what? That'll be on the back of the t-shirt. It'll be her face on the front and Kayla's number one fan, not named Tiki Maximus, on the back of this. We jump from Kayla Harrison's second win in the UFC, and we go to Roman Dolidze's versus Kevin Trailblazer Holland. And listen, Roman gets the win. Kevin Holland does
Yep.
not get off of the stool.
Yep.
And the report is broken ribs.
Yep.
And I don't know if you heard, but Conor McGregor said, that's not the way to do it. You get off the stool, you get back in the fight, and you see if you can. And I think the tell of the tape, him talking to Joaquin Buckley, and you seeing how he's holding his ribs, I think he was done. And I think sometimes in life, you have to know when you are done. No matter what the warrior spirit looks like, no matter how big the dog is in that fight, sometimes you just have to say, I need to live to fight another day. So in this case,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with Connor. But what did you think about this fight?
It was an unfortunate end to the fight, but once I saw him grimacing, holding his ribs, Kevin Holland, I like the guy, and I like how he likes to trash talk. It does make it kind of a fun aspect of the fight. And sometimes you realize that even though he gets a little bit outrageous with his trash talking during the fights, but he does sometimes kind of lock down, and he does kind of like um, fight serious when he does. But unfortunately, once he got taken down, and he really couldn't really escape, and then when I saw that footage again of him trying to maneuver out of it and crack his spirit, his body language, his facial features, like you could tell that something was wrong when he started to grimace right after the bell had rung. So, I mean, great win for Roman, but it's kind of a tough way to see that fight finish that way, but that just happens in the fight game. And kudos to Roman for a big victory. And who knows what's next for Roman? And hopefully Kevin gets back healthier than before and gets back in there again. And can't wait to see him again. So
Mm, well, and that brings to mind the old Tyrone Woodley.
Woodley to get that guillotine. Oh, something happened.
That we heard, that little meme that we heard for quite some time. But it's hard in fights like this when severe injuries happen really quickly, that I don't believe are particularly purposeful. It's always really hard, and I don't even want to go too far into this fight. I hope that at some point this fight is run back. I think that both of the opponents deserve it.
yeah,
It's just I don't think enough was done to be able to say, hey, either guy really decisively won this fight. Well, let me not say that. Let me rewind that back. Roman won this fight. That's apparent. But I think that it
yeah.
would be fair for them to say, hey, you know what? Let's run this back, a healthy Kevin Holland, and then see what happens and what becomes of that fight.
There was what I've always noticed, and like I'm guessing that the blueprint is out there, but it just seems like, you know what, Kevin Holland, try your hardest to take him down, and you gain an advantage in this particular fight. Whoever has that fight with Kevin Holland, because like it seems like that's pretty much like the first key when you're fighting Kevin Holland is you really got to make him like learn how to grapple, how to defend takedowns and everything. And the moment that we saw him get taken down, like, yep, they're all following the blueprint.
Yeah, and again, I think Roman is a guy who is going to wrestle regardless. But I think for guys who want to win, they're going to utilize the things that are going to get them to the dance, right? They want to get the championship, they want to get the money. They have a singular focus of getting a golden belt strapped around their waist. And when you're coming up against guys who have little to no grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo background, then it's like, hey, let me capitalize on this. Bantamweight bout, Jose Aldo, Mario Bautista, and very controversial fight. I
Yeah.
know that Dana White wasn't too happy, but what did you think about the Mario Bautista win?
I knew that this probably was gonna go probably back and forth. And but the thing is, I didn't feel like there was a winner in this fight. No one was distinctive in winning this fight. But I believe it was a split decision. Was that the correct result from this fight?
Split decision, yes, sir.
Yeah, so in a way, like it probably got the correct result in a sense that the judges probably were going to have a hard time trying to judge this fight, knowing that it went all 3 rounds and they fought that way with each other, and it leaves everybody a lot to desire. So um, maybe someday they might run this back, but honestly, it is what it was, and I mean, I did pick Mario Bautista, yeah, and I'm kind of glad I
hmm
got the correct guy, but
The significant strikes, 2 out of 3 rounds goes to Jose Aldo. Okay, the total strikes goes to Mario. All right, and so
yeah,
this is the reason why I think we get to the point of where we say you cannot leave. You can, and Dana White says it. I think most journalists say it. And remember, this is the Who Are They podcast. We are not MMA journalists. We are MMA enthusiasts. So the thing is most people will say you do not want to leave your fight to the judges. Okay. And when you look at the fact and the ticker tape saying that while Mario may have gotten more punches off, he also got less of the significant strikes. He also did
yeah,
therefore less damage. Um,
yeah,
and it's tough. It's tough when both guys come out looking, like brand new Porsches or Corvettes, almost as if they weren't in the fight at the end of it. But at the end of the day, Mario got his win against one of my favorite fighters to ever step
yeah,
inside the octagon. And then that's all I have to say about it. Hats off to him and congratulations.
yeah,
And like you said, hopefully, maybe at some point we see it back down the road. But we cannot forget that Jose Aldo has been doing this for quite some time. He's already retired once. I don't
hmm
know if we see that fight again. And I don't know if the rest of the world cares to see that fight again. Sometimes once guys, lay and pray up against the fence, people are like, let's see something different. Let's actually see someone who's going to go in there and actually fight it out. Speaking of fighting it out, we move to the women's bantamweight title fight. When you have Raquel Pennington going up against Julianna Peña, you got to think this is going to be one hell of a fight. And Tony, was it
yeah.
one hell of a fight?
There was quite a bit of action going on in this fight, and you could say there are probably three different tales of the same fight. Um, I mean, you did see where Raquel was
I don't
kind
know
of
what
doing
you
her
were
thing,
watching, talking about
Peña
tails,
was doing
Tony.
her thing, and then just to see how well who wanted it more in the fifth round. But then
Hmm.
also the fact that the first round could be interpreted in two different ways too. So I believe this one was a split decision, and Peña got the victory. I mean, kudos for Peña for, I guess, supposedly doing enough to win this fight and win in the eyes of the judges. And she utilized mostly her strikes, and she get quite a few takedowns in this one too. But I don't know if she did much damage with those takedowns. Like to just show that you can take someone down but not do much afterwards. Um, Maybe that had some weight to it, but at the same time, um, you got to see a lot of the characteristics of what makes both of these fighters in this fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually ran this back because they both did fairly well in this one. So who knows? We might see a run back.
I don't see what you're seeing that would cause for and are you saying an immediate rematch?
Uh, I think there should be a rematch before considering anyone else for this title. So I
So
would
my
like to see a run back.
so my issue with that is if who was it? It was Jan Blachowicz versus. Oh no! I am so sorry. Which fight was it when in the light heavyweight division with Glover Teixeira? And that fight was quite a bit lackluster, and they ended up awarding. That was when they went with Jamal Hill versus Glover, and I don't see. I'm not saying that this fight was as boring as that fight was in the light heavyweight division, but I will say that this fight was not the kind of fight that I think that Dana White is going to be looking to rebook anytime soon. When we look at, total strikes and takedowns, it was a good fight at best. And Dana White is not in to booking good fights. And if he thinks that that's going to be, the outcome or a possible outcome of a rematch, I highly doubt that he puts that back on the books for fans to wonder or even talk about again. I think, and I think that Raquel also believes, because she's mentioned it, that she probably needs to get a fight under her belt before she gets a crack at the title again. And I think that's just, especially when you look at the fight to get the title, was still another fight that wasn't up to snuff when it comes to being exciting, being a barn burner, being a thriller. So I think that, yes, I think definitely at least one more fight for Raquel needs to be under the belt before she goes back for a title contention run. So Juliana,
So then, who do you
no,
think that Juliana should face if it's not going to be an immediate run back?
oh, she should be facing none other than Kayla Harrison herself. At,
Ooh.
so, I mean, listen, that's probably going to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest fight for her in the division right now, outside of Amanda Nunes. And again, calling someone out of retirement. I was upset when we were at Dave and Buster's having my Jello shots because I was like, why is Kayla Harrison in the back making funny faces at the TV? Well, now I know why, because now I got to actually finally hear the insane call out of Amanda Nunes. Now, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are going to call out Amanda Nunes, who, by the way, if you haven't been watching UFC fights, you're living under a rock, or you just happen to be digging your face into a newspaper, is retired, then at least say, hey, you know what, Amanda Nunes, I want you back in the UFC. What did our friend Duplessis say? Get your butt back in the UFC. as if Israel had ever left. Get your butt back in the UFC. And if you aren't going to do it, then you call out Kayla Harrison. What it sounds like to me is Kayla Harrison is the panther waiting in the darkness, and Julianna may be a little bit more fearful of a Kayla Harrison matchup. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to call out an Amanda Nunes. Nothing wrong with calling her out, but that's a long shot. I would say there's nothing wrong with calling her out, but definitely you should have been calling out, if not Kayla Harrison, someone else who is in the UFC, a more viable fight that you can actually get to. Listen, again, this is another win that did not look like a substantial one. And so the question I have is, one, you gotta fight again. And are you going to protect the belt? And I just don't know. Again, there's not one people in her division right now that I believe at that caliber of Kayla Harrison. She's lucky Amanda's gone right now. That's my opinion. So that's what I got to say on that. Again, I feel like this fight lasted the rounds because it was lackluster, and we'll see what ends up happening, my friend. The main event of the evening, Khalil Roundtree Jr. trying to strip that golden belt away from none other than Alex Poatan Pereira, Mr. Stonehands himself. Take it away, Tiggy Max.
That was a fun fight, actually. I like the fact that Khalil was firsthand aggressive and then kind of caught Alex Pereira a little bit off guard with the aggressiveness. And you got to see some significant strikes that really got to Alex. And I think there was a head kick somewhere in that first 2 rounds where it actually got Alex, but it wasn't like the full blow of a head kick. But unfortunately, I think Alex was kind of strategizing. He started to get some of those significant strikes, body blows, got some of those strikes on his head, got it to the point where leg kicks became a thing too. And so he was starting to systematically break down Khalil Roundtree. And with all these strikes just starting to compile, you just saw Roundtree's just start to kind of wither. And in the fourth round, you saw that big finish with what seemed like an onslaught. And I think there was a punch thrown by Khalil Roundtree that actually got Alex, but it looked like by the time it hit him, it was like nothing was there by the time it touched him. And you just saw like someone's life just kind of withered away from their body. And Alex went for like all these club and blows for like the ending sequence. And, kudos to Alex Pereira for another big victory. Defeated another guy, another title defense under his belt. And I can't wait to see what Alex has next for him. And I think he's going to fight again in 3 months, right? He keeps doing that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he is definitely keeping the needle moving and the ball rolling when it comes to fighting. I will say that if I'm looking at these numbers for the production of both Alex and Khalil, not to me, the number of even just regular total strikes didn't seem like the actual production I was watching. So that feels a little bit off when it comes to, especially on the Khalil Roundtree side. Now I'm looking at things and it's like, 10 strikes. And I'm like, I definitely took more than 10 strikes in the first round. And I'm not talking even significant strikes. He just took more than 10 strikes that were near or on the opponent. Definitely more than that. And I will say that I saw the bead of sweat that you had roll down your forehead when Alex came out like a bullet train with that kick and Khalil Roundtree Jr. caught that kick. I saw it in your eyes that you thought that fight was over. And lucky for you, it was not. Lucky for me, it was not either, because we both picked Alex Pereira to win. But I will say, Alex does what Alex always does. Khalil did what we expect, well, some of us expected him to do, which was stay busy, stay active. And I think that was, I mean, listen, Khalil Roundtree has given Alex Pereira the toughest fight he's had in the light heavyweight division. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of that came from that not only was he moving and did he stay productive, but he wasn't just throwing a bunch of feints. He was making sure that while he kept his head on a swivel and he threw his feints, he was also throwing punches that would keep him at bay and stall him from being able to just do the offense that he wanted to do. I said that Alex has a almost perfect set of underhook punches where he keeps them nice, tight, and close, especially if he has you up against the cage. It's something that you really have to be worried about anytime you get near the cage, because he's pinpoint, he's powerful, and he throws it in a 1-2 combination. I mean, it's not even punches and bunches. He's effective because he throws that 1-2 combination and you're already hurting. But I will say this, you gotta go with, the ability of Alex at this point, because you've seen what he's able to do against so many different fighting styles, against the wrestlers, against the strikers, against guys who just want to do, Thai kickboxing. So that was exciting. Hats off to both these guys.
Scary dude, Alex Pereira. And I'm guessing that with this another title defense under his belt, and he's defying challengers, yeah, he does what looks like 3 possible opponents. I mean, one, he could be facing Ankalev for the light heavyweight championship, which seems to be like the only realistic guy left in the division. Otherwise, he just cleared out everybody. And then there's those 2 heavyweight champions. You got the interim champ, Tom Aspinall, and you got Bones Jones, the current heavyweight champion. And honestly, all 3 fights are all exciting, very intriguing, and I can't wait to see what happens. I'm probably guessing early 2025 to see where Alex is going to go next. So,
Well, I don't think that anyone could say any better than you just did. I will say that if he were to skip Ankalev and move up to the heavyweight division to get that coveted and singular 3 weight division belt that no one has been able to do in the UFC.
Yep.
I mean, I just got to say that I would be excited to see it. I would love to see a John Jones versus Alex fight, or a interim title, which again, we get it. Tom Aspinall wants to be the UFC champion. There's nothing wrong with that. But if he were to fight either one of those guys, I think it would be fantastic. It would be something I'd want to see. And I would put it this way: while neither one of those guys is my top 5, if he were to fight Aspinall and either one of Alex or Aspinall wins, those guys definitely start getting closer to the top 5 for me, because that, I know that's going to be one heck of a fight for sure, hands down. But this is what it always is, and that is a bottle of greatness. This is the Who Are They podcast. I'm D2 Nice.
Tiggy Maximus. So excited for those
Tiggy
fights.
Maximus.
And more fights to come.
More fights to come, and we're out.